Hello and welcome to our first ever Sunday episode of the World Class Real Estate Podcast in our seven bite-sized chunks. Today we are going to be talking about what value we can offer to our market, and are we really sure what we offer? Are we salespeople or are we the local market news article? Ian, I know you feel pretty passionately again about the latter point of that, but do you consider our industry a sales industry?
Well, I think your first question, yes, is the answer. Whatever you are being is what you are. So, if you are doing your training and you're driven by sales and metrics and conversions, that's what you are as an agent. If you are driven by being your local influencer in the property world, and everything that you do from a day-to-day content creation or advice or networking, online, offline, whatever it may be, that's what you are. If you're the service, I'll tell you a funny story about a group of lads that I walked past on Monday, actually, that were warming up for some seven-a-side football, that were middle-aged. But whatever you are is what you are. That's ultimately the way the public see us, is the way that we behave. So if we want to be a valuable agent that's sharing knowledge and the point of trust and the point of reference in your local area, that's what you have to give off and show. It's funny, on Monday I went back to seven-a-side and I walked past this group. I play football with an agent, another agent, not really a rival, just another independent agent. But as I walked past this group of men, obviously one of them was looking to sell his home, and I just sort of caught it. I was wearing, funnily enough, this black hoodie. I caught mid-conversation. They said, you go to them if you want cheap, and they'll do the job, but they are cheap. So, you get what you get. Or you go to them, and then they said another brand, but they'll probably put it on for 50 grand more and it'll just sit there. And I was just like, should I just jump into this conversation or not? But that is what the public's view is of those two agents. They saw that one is cheap and does a cheap job. They saw that one overprices and tricks you into a contract. The public are not stupid. So whatever value you want to put across, your identity, your brand, who you are as a business, what your culture is ultimately dictated by your behaviours and your actions. And that's really something to think about with this value subject on Sunday, basically, for me.
Yeah, and I think on that point, we just need to, say it's never been easier to make yourself out as how you want to be perceived because of social media. Video is massive now. It's really easy to come across as you want to come across on video, because you can be very, very authentic. It doesn't have to be super polished nowadays. So actually, I suppose one of the questions to ask is, are you answering the question and providing your market with the knowledge that you've got in your head? Because I think we often understate the knowledge that we've got, which is massively powerful on the market. I mentioned it earlier in one of these bite sizes about asking the question, how's the market being? What's the market doing? We should be answering that question all the time online and providing people with that information, because there must be so many people that are thinking it and don't actually ask the question. So if we can answer that question for people, we then become a more prominent figure likely to gain business, because you're providing them with the knowledge that you've got, which is really valuable, because we're not just talking about, a little thing here. We're talking about a major thing in everyone's life when they're ready to sell a house. It's a massive, it's probably, we've talked about goals and aspirations earlier this year, and it's probably, if somebody's moving house, it's that thing for that year, at least a year. If you're unsuccessful, it'll take longer than a year, but that is probably one of your big goals for the year. And therefore, if we can not only help people achieve it, but also communicate, effective information for them around that goal, then that will put us well placed to, receive the business and then succeed in influencing people, which effectively is what we're talking about here, is with online presence.
Yeah, and that question that you mentioned there, what's your view of the market? That question, what's your thoughts on the market at the moment, is without question the most important question that we can ask a seller in a living room or a buyer on a viewing. if we can get to that question before they get to the question, then we can find out what they're thinking without any influence from us, prior to us then giving our actual educational piece on it or our actual authority on the market. And I've over the years, I've sat on viewings and had rows with buyers about the market because they're so wrong. But I've kind of almost gone, I'm happy to piss off this buyer because they're so wrong that they'll never find a property if that's their view. So I'm going to give them war and peace on why they're wrong. So even if they don't like me at the end of this, they'll leave as a better educated buyer. But asking that question, it gives you the answer. You know, it gives you the answer and the way to kind of shape the conversation.
Interesting enough, I had a typical one on a meeting yesterday where I was valuing someone's house. She says, "There's not very much on the market, is there?" And I have to say, only more than there's been for the last 10 years. Like, obviously not like that.
Yeah.
But she was like, really? She's like, well, isn't it just not what we're looking for? I said, no, statistically, there is now more on the market than there has been at any time in the last 10 years. So therefore, it creates buyers able to, take the time, able to have choice, a very price sensitive market. But their perception of what they're trying to achieve is just a very small snapshot. And also, I also recognize that my perception on the market is massively influenced by the snapshot of my business, but I also know wider market stats, which is, the episode that we did on reporting on that is important as well. So you're not just being really macro in your thinking, but you're absolutely right. Buyers who think there is nothing on the market now are probably being too fussy.
Yeah. There'll be buyers out there thinking, right, it's a buyer's world. It's a buyer's world today, and everyone's taking 20% off their asking price. And you're like, no, they're not. But I think for us, in terms of the value, it's just remembering, especially if you're a career-long agent, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years in the industry, the amount of knowledge and value you've got on how our after-sales process works, to mortgage offer information, to inquiry knowledge, to unadopted roads in certain areas where covenants sit, and TPO issues in certain the amount of knowledge you've actually got on the market, what comparables have sold, what's on. Most people know every house on the market in their town. They just tell you the address and who it's on with and what price. Really, really high level stuff. So what can we share about the industry that people need to know today that changes? What can you share about the market that people need to know from the past and from the future? And what can we share about local information? What is the standout features of living in your town where you operate? Talk about it, share it. And that's how we can get our value across, rather than being a sales shark. That's the way that we can really improve what we spoke about yesterday, our online presence. We can do it with offline presence if you want to do it that way as well, or you can do it with networking if you want to do it that way. But how do we share that knowledge, that value will enhance our brand and our overall reputation within the area, I would say.
Yeah, and please take the advice from this episode to try and reach out and improve how much of that market knowledge that you're sharing, because it is valuable. Don't underestimate how valuable it is and how interested people are in it. Go out and, share it more and more. Don't be afraid to have those conversations that you have one-on-one, publicly, on social media, via video, newsletter, blog, if you want to, whichever way you're doing it, share that information, because it is valuable, and it's, one of the assets that we have to share as industry professionals. So hopefully you've enjoyed that episode. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about what everybody wants to talk about all of the time. How do we improve our fees?